So today we're going to be talking about 10 rules that you need to follow if you plan to move to Chesapeake, Virginia, and we're starting right now. So people come from all across the country to move to Chesapeake because of a lot of different reasons: job, family, being close to the beach, a nice lifestyle, schools, a lot of positive things. But before you choose to move to Chesapeake, I want you to follow these 10 rules because these will help guide you into where you should move in Chesapeake and if you should even move to Chesapeake at all. So rule number one is going to be expect bland. Well, okay, what does that mean? So Chesapeake is known to be a rural part of town, a rural city, very relaxed, kind of, not a lot of really significant action going on in Chesapeake. That's kind of the branding that Chesapeake has embraced over the course of decades. So when I say expect bland, what I'm saying is to come in expecting that you may not have as much to do as you might want to do in the city of Chesapeake. Because Chesapeake was named as the most boring city in the country. However, there are some things to do here. There are more outdoor things, a lot of parks, museums, some history, things you can learn about the city, and shopping, some local events, things like that. But so what you'll realize is that there are things to do here. But if you walk in thinking that, it's not going to be super exciting, I think you might be pleasantly surprised at what you might find in Chesapeake and also around Chesapeake. So come at it from that perspective, I think you're going to be just fine. So that leads me to rule number 2, which is embrace the small town feel. So like I mentioned, some small town events and things to do in the city, but this area is a traditionally rural city, laid back city. It's got around 275,000 people in the city, and it's a big city. But for the most part, you'll find a lot of different parts of the area that are just kind of, they've grown slowly over time, over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so you have a lot of farmland, lots of rural areas, lots of country. And so even still currently, you'll find a lot of the areas in Chesapeake furthest away from the center of Hampton Roads to still be rural. And so when you hear someone say Chesapeake, that is one of the first things that comes up is people think small town. Even the strip malls, the stores, the businesses are a lot of them are local. You've got fall time, you've got hay rides, you've got strawberry picking events, things like that make you feel like you're in a small community. So with South Chesapeake being like a small town feel, you also have Western Chesapeake, which is Western Branch, that has almost the same kind of dynamic as you might find in South Chesapeake. And same goes with Deep Creek, which is right in the middle of both of those places. Now, South Norfolk is a Chesapeake area too, but that area feels different. That's more of it's more of an industrial, kind of an urban setting than the rest of Chesapeake. But that being said, most of Chesapeake feels like a small town, though it's a very large land size. There are individual areas in the city of Chesapeake that feel different, but each different feel still falls under the same small town feel umbrella. So that leads me to number 3, which is keep your options open. So people that move to Chesapeake often think, well, I want to be in Chesapeake for something specific, or I want to move there because of a job or the school districts. But in reality, there are a lot of places in Hampton Roads that you can live around Chesapeake to give you access to what you need to do in Chesapeake, but may not always live in Chesapeake itself. Especially looking at the map, if you look at Chesapeake and Virginia Beach, they are right next to each other. And so if you look at Chesapeake, the line is right here at Greenbrier, and this red line here, as you're driving through Greenbrier on Kempsville Road and Centerville Turnpike, you drive right into Virginia Beach. You don't even notice the difference. And so a lot of Virginia Beach can feel very similar to a lot of Chesapeake, and even on both sides of Chesapeake. And so that's something to keep in mind, because don't look online on listings like Zillow, Redfin. When you look at houses online, you might look for a city or a zip code, and it's like, hey, I want to be in this specific part of this specific city. But the reality is, if you're looking for a certain type of feel in Hampton Roads, it's not just found in one city. And Chesapeake specifically has the small town, relaxed feel. Virginia Beach has a lot of that too. And there are other parts of the area that feel very similar to Chesapeake, but you don't even actually realize that you're not in Chesapeake. Like, for example, even Portsmouth or Suffolk has some of those similar vibes too. So when you're looking for houses, keep your options open, and I think you'll find plenty of options that are within the correct drive distance or commute distance that you might need to be where you need to be. To that point leads me to the next one is make sure you buy a car or you own a car. People that come from different parts of the country like New York City, other urban areas that you don't really need a car to get around, you come to a place like Chesapeake and you might be shocked. And so if you think, well, it's a big area, I'm sure the public transportation system is really efficient, functions well, it's not that great. And so you might be, if you're taking the bus in different places or even the light rail in Norfolk or different local transportation systems, you might not be super thrilled with how long it takes to get from place to place. Now, I wouldn't say that buying a car here is super expensive compared to other parts of the country. I think it's probably about average. So you're not going to be coming into a crazy car buying environment if you come to Chesapeake to buy a car. I definitely would suggest something that is a high miles per gallon car, just because when you drive through the city of Chesapeake and other parts of Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, etc., you're going to be finding yourself in a lot of stop and go traffic, a lot of stoplights. It eats up gas, and so I would just suggest getting something that is very good with gas to keep you sane as you're driving around town so much. So it is imperative. If you plan to move to Chesapeake, you've got to have a car. There's really no other alternatives to live here and also enjoy your life while you're here. Rule number 5 is know the tolls and bridges. So one thing Chesapeake is known for is it has bridges and it's got some tolls, and those tolls and bridges can split up the city in ways that if you live on one side of bridges or tolls and the other, you might find yourself frustrated if you live on the wrong side of those tolls and bridges compared to where you want to be. So looking at the map, you see Veterans Bridge, which is Route 17 right here. You see this right here. This is a long road that is a super convenient road, Route 17, that connects down to the very south of the state, as well as into the central part of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach. But it's the fastest way to get from this side of Chesapeake near Deep Creek, Grassfield school districts. It's the fastest way to get north into the rest of Chesapeake, into Virginia Beach. But the problem is it has a toll, and so that's one. Then there's the Centerville Turnpike Bridge that goes on the other side near Centerville Turnpike, kind of like the gateway to Great Bridge and Hickory school districts on this side. So that's the road that goes up into Virginia Beach, as well as a couple of others. The Great Bridge, which is right here on the Elizabeth River at the Intercoastal Waterway right here. This connects from the north part of Chesapeake near Greenbrier, going down towards Great Bridge as well. And there's also a toll that is on the James River Bridge that connects from South Norfolk over to Portsmouth. This one, if you find yourself, the GPS takes you across this bridge, it's several dollars. And if you don't program your GPS to direct you away from tolls, you'll find yourself driving across that bridge, having to turn around and go back around the other way, and paying several dollars each way. So definitely would make sure the setting on your GPS is set to avoid tolls, if at all possible, if you don't know where you're going to go, because the GPS could take you a route that costs you several dollars. And also, Interstate 64 is getting widened at the high-rise bridge across the Elizabeth River too, and that will include some express lanes that will be tolled too. Another bridge is the bridge right near Deep Creek, which I think is important, between Deep Creek and Grassfield, a school district area. And if you zoom in, this bridge is right here, right near the Deep Creek Lock Park. Where we go? There we go. Next to 7-Eleven here. Across this bridge here. This bridge is small. You don't pay much attention to it, but goodness gracious, it backs up. And so if you're anywhere near this bridge, if you're on one side, you need to go to the other, and vice versa. It can be very frustrating if you need to do this on a regular basis. So just keep that bridge in mind. It's going to be annoying, and they're going to do some modifications to this area to make this traffic area a lot more palatable, but it's still a frustrating spot because it's just such a narrow and very small part of Chesapeake that has such an impact on traffic in this whole part of the city. So how do you avoid this? One of the biggest ways and helpful ways to avoid any of these would be the Chesapeake bypass, which is 168 right here. This road connects down from Hickory, Grassfield, Great Bridge, all the way up into the central part of Chesapeake, into Virginia Beach and the rest of Chesapeake and Portsmouth and Norfolk. So being close to this 168 is definitely going to help. But even if you're not, you can still take several roads, like longer ways, but around, to get on 168, so you don't have to pay the toll. And sometimes you can avoid the traffic that might be caused by the backups at bridges too. So then it leads me to number 6, which is know the jet noise zones. So people talk about Virginia Beach having jet noise. Chesapeake also has it. So Oceana Naval Air Station is in Virginia Beach. But if you go south and further south into the west, you'll go into an area called Butt Station and Fentress. Well, Butt Station and Fentress, see right here, Butt Station, Fentress Airfield, this is the airstrip right here. And if you're close to this airstrip, you're definitely going to hear jet noise. I mean, you're definitely going to hear it. Even going further out away from it near Albemarle Acres, I've talked to people that I know that have lived in Albemarle Acres and this over here, and they've heard it. So anything close to Mount Pleasant Centerville Turnpike near Ravenna, which is this neighborhood right across the street from Mount Pleasant Christian School, this neighborhood, you'll get some of that over there as well. So just check your ACU's jet noise zone map to make sure that you're getting proper information about how close your house, the house you want to move to or buy, is located around or in proximity to the jets. So that leads me to number 7, which is try as best you can to be close to Greenbrier. Greenbrier is, like, I'd say, the shopping epicenter of Chesapeake. It's also the gateway, I'd say, to Virginia Beach. Summit Point is a new whole strip mall, shopping center, apartment building area, living space, walkable restaurant spot that is all new around the Dollar Tree headquarters, which is located right in or around Greenbrier. Greenbrier is super, super important. And you can see here's Greenbrier, and here's Virginia Beach right here. And the rest of Chesapeake, all the interstate systems connect all close to Greenbrier as well, right here. So if you're close to Greenbrier, you're going to have access to a lot of things that you'll need. You'll have access to a lot of things that you'll want. You'll have access to a lot of job spots, a lot of restaurants. Everything you can find is probably going to be located somewhere around Greenbrier. Now, if you don't live near Greenbrier, you can get there. It's just that the convenience, the proximity to Greenbrier, I think really adds a dynamic to making living in Chesapeake a lot more enjoyable, because you can get there and the other parts of Hampton Roads a lot easier if you're close to Greenbrier. Now, the next one is create your own fun. Okay, I mentioned about Chesapeake being boring. Now, I grew up in and around Chesapeake my whole life. And so a lot of the close friends I grew up with lived in Chesapeake. And we spent a lot of time as high schoolers at Barnes & Noble in Greenbrier. Kind of boring. We did our homework there or whatever, but most of Greenbrier and most of Chesapeake closes up after 9, 10 o'clock. Not much else going on. There's the Eagle's Nest, which is a late night bar, country bar that's not too far away from Greenbrier. There are some other late night spots, but not very many. And it's not just all about late night fun. But my point here is that the city it winds down early, and there's not a lot of variety of things to do. So what we did was we created our own fun, like spent time at Barnes & Noble. We went to the park. We did walks, played a lot of games at friends' houses. We went to the movies. We did those things that you do as teenagers did. But we did a lot of things that we had to create on our own because, again, there wasn't a lot of things handed to us from the standpoint of enjoyment and things to do. I went bowling a lot in high school, played pool. And even as I got older, into my adult time period, I went to and still go to high school football games. I love high school football games. There's some really good ones in Chesapeake too. So that kind of thing. Finding those things, those unique things that make you excited about life, you can probably find them in Chesapeake. You might spend more time at your house playing games, spending time with your family, they're all great things, but you're not making a big splash when it comes to random crazy things to do like you might find in a lot of other large cities in the country. That leads me to the next one, which is number 9. If you're single, reconsider moving to Chesapeake. Now, this area is loaded with awesome school districts, high-rated school districts across the state. I mean, some of the best ones in the state. And that, of course, is often in the south part of Chesapeake, western part of Chesapeake. And that leads to people that move here that have families, that want to be here, that have kids and raise their kids through high school. Well, that's great. And it creates a very stable environment for a lot of people that have families. However, if you're single, there are a ton of single people that also live in Chesapeake that make it very easy to mingle with and make other single friends. It's possible, but just not easy. People here are great. It's just that knowing what you can expect when you move here as a single person. I would definitely suggest looking outside of the actual city of Chesapeake to find things to do that can help you meet more people as opposed to just staying in the city of Chesapeake itself. The last one is just very interesting that I think is a new development moving forward, which is know your animal laws, namely chickens. People that often move to Chesapeake or even Virginia Beach are often sometimes looking for places where they can raise chickens, grow vegetables and crops, homesteading, things like that, right? But chickens is often a discussed thing because people want chickens in Chesapeake and Virginia Beach. However, in Chesapeake, you can only have up to 6 hens at a household. Chesapeake is a small town atmosphere and has a lot of rural settings. And so because of that, people often think, well, I can just do whatever I want at my property. Well, you actually can't in Chesapeake Chesapeake, even though you might think you can. So just make sure you're aware of the laws, and you can go onto the city's website to know the guidelines for what you can and can't do animal-wise at your property. But this will definitely help, especially if you want land in Chesapeake. So if you have any more questions about relocating to Chesapeake or other areas in Hampton Roads, including Chesapeake, Virginia Beach through Williamsburg, let me know. It's what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, drop a comment, email, call, text, reach out at any point, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.